Good morning. Today is April 30th. I'm your host, Francesca Warren, and this is the education news that you need to know. Now, what would you do if you lived in a state that just statistically spends the least amount of money per pupil on education spending? Would you think that that said state could then take over the schools and do a better job than the local appointed board? Well, if you live in Tennessee, this is your reality. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I am never in agreement that a state legislature should have the ability to take over a school system. However, last week in Tennessee Republicans have passed legislation that would basically make that possible, okay? And it would eventually impact any school system across the state. Now, the Tennessee legislature, the same legislature that spends the least amount of money per student in student funding, would install a politically appointed oversight board in any Tennessee school district that meets 4 of 6 criteria of academic underperformance and management instability. Okay? Now, what does this mean? This means that the state of Tennessee, that legislature, I want you to think about the people who are currently in there, would be able to install a non-person oversight board who would be empowered to fire any district employee, including the superintendent, with or without cause. It also would have veto power over the district budget. A fun fact about Shelby County Schools, their operating budget is $1.7 billion. Okay? Memphis, Shelby County Schools, it used to be Memphis City Schools. Shelby County Schools is the largest district in Georgia. Okay? And this is happening all in the same fire where Memphis, due to the firing of the last superintendent that was wildly unpopular, many of the school board seats in Memphis are currently up for grabs. The Memphis takeover advocates have argued that intervention is needed due to consistent academic underperformance in the state's largest school. But Tennessee Department of Education officials testified on Monday that the majority of school districts meet the same academic underperformance criteria, and 7 school districts meet 3 of the 4 performance standards. Now, get this. These districts include Campbell, Cock, Madison, Lewis, and Shelby County. Now, let me ask, I want you guys to think, what's the difference between these districts and Shelby County Schools? If you said that Shelby County Schools is a majority Democratic area, you would get that right. And the other ones are mainly Republican-run areas. In addition to, and let me caveat this. This is not the first time that the state has done this. They had the achievement zone in Memphis. It did not work out. And the schools were returned back to the public school system. Now, here are the criteria and where the state could install an oversight board in school districts where fewer than 50% of students earn proficient on state standardized math tests, fewer than 50% of students earn proficient scores on state standardized English language arts tests, 25% or more of the schools in the district earn a D or an F in letter grades from the Tennessee Department of Education, and a 25% or higher chronic absentee rate. Now, there are a couple of people who architected this. Representative Mark White, he's a Memphis Republican who co-sponsored the effort to intervene in schools. Keep in mind, he brought this up after the last superintendent was fired, after a national search, and the public was mad about it. He noted that Memphis Shelby Schools is the only district that meets all of those criteria, okay? Now, the final 2 designations include the Commissioner of Education, a political appointee, determining whether an audit shows deficiencies in district management, and whether the local Board of Education has employed more than 2 superintendents or directors of schools in the last 4 years, which Memphis does. Memphis had Joris Ray before Marie Fagans. Again, Memphis is the only district in the state with the ongoing forensic audit managed by the Tennessee's Comptroller's Audit although, school districts are routinely examined in lower profile audits. The audits were caused because when they got rid of the superintendent, the community demanded for people to look at the books. Now, I will say this, all caveats, I was a teacher in Memphis city schools 25 years ago. So I'm very familiar with the district. I will say this. I think that, and I listened to an interview from the former mayor and superintendent of Memphis City Schools, Harrington. And one of the things he said is that he agrees with the state takeover because he doesn't think the people on the board have the skills, the school board, to manage the district as big and as complex. Now, I will say this, the same people who are calling for this takeover and who now have passed legislation are the same people who do not spend near as much money on students per pupil than any other state. So to think that they're going to be able to appoint a board that is nonpartisan, that will have the interest of Memphis students is laughable. Okay. But on the flip side of that, the way the last superintendent was fired is it brought a lot of bad press, and there were a lot of people who questioned, why are we getting rid of another superintendent? Now, I want to say this. Now, Memphis Republicans who are pushing for this intervention, they argue that this isn't the state's takeover of Tennessee's largest district and Tennessee's largest blue area, but said that it said neither them nor the Department of Education would directly control decisions within the district. The majority of this oversight committee, these board members, must be residents of Shelby County. However, the new legislation gives these elected Republicans in Tennessee broad authority to craft or even trigger an oversight board. And remember what I said earlier, they can hire or fire any school employee. The governor would appoint 5 oversight board members, and the House and State and Senate speakers would get 2 appointees each. The oversight board would seize major financial control from Memphis Shelby County School Board, whose primary authority, any school board's authority, is to hire and fire the superintendent, set the budget, and manage the budget, and manage the district superintendent. Under this legislation, the school board would have to submit its proposed budget to the oversight body for approval. And the oversight body could veto any or all line items in the budget. So if they politically do not agree with ELL office, they can cut that budget. And that is a real thing. The oversight board could even rewrite the entire district's budget under certain circumstances. It's not unprecedented in Tennessee. However, this is the largest district in Tennessee. And despite other districts meeting the criteria, this is the only district that the legislature is going after. It would also block the local board from signing off on district budget items without oversight board's approval. Basically, the state legislature just took control of the biggest budget in Tennessee in education, $1.7 billion. They just took control of it, over it. Let us know in the comments. Do you ever think there is a reason for a state legislature to take over a school system's budget? You guys, I've talked about this continuously about these test scores, and these are all made up by testing companies, but now it's being used to basically disenfranchise the voters in Memphis. So let us know in the comments. Tell me what you think about this. Have you been following this story? Is this what the school board gets in Tennessee, in Memphis, for firing the last superintendent? Let us know in the comments.